making the difference into an index fund instead of paying off the house faster. This is the math the 15-year crowd never shows you. It's the math that makes their entire argument fall apart. And the reason they don't show it isn't because they're hiding it. It's because they don't believe you'll execute it. Here's what's actually happening underneath the math. A 15-year mortgage isn't really saving you interest. That's the surface framing. The real framing is this. A 15-year mortgage forces you to invest your money at a guaranteed return equal to your mortgage rate. When Jake pays an extra $678 a month into his mortgage instead of investing it, he's effectively buying an asset that returns 6%, his mortgage rate. That's the rate of return on every dollar of extra principal. And it's tax disadvantaged because as his loan balance shrinks, so does his ability to deduct mortgage interest on his taxes. Now, 6% isn't a bad return. It's better than a savings account. It's better than most bonds in most environments, but it's not better than the long-run return on broad market equities. The historical real return of the S&P 500, that's after adjusting for inflation, is approximately 7%. The nominal return before inflation adjustment is closer to 10%. Even in conservative projections, even using lower expected returns going forward, the spread between equity returns and mortgage rates is positive in nearly every realistic 15 to 30-year window in U.S. history. The 15-year mortgage forces you onto the lower return path. The 30-year plus invest strategy puts you on the higher return path and keeps the house. You don't lose anything. You just stop concentrating your wealth into the asset with the lower expected return. That's the entire concept. It's not complicated, it's just not what the gurus tell you because the gurus aren't optimizing for return. They're optimizing for behavior. Paying off your mortgage faster feels right. It feels disciplined. It feels like the kind of thing a responsible person does. And the emotional appeal of being mortgage-free is real. There's nothing wrong with valuing it. But let's look at what you're actually doing when you take a 15-year. You're concentrating an enormous portion of your wealth into a single illiquid asset. And illiquid is the operative word. You can't easily access home equity. If you need cash, you have three options. Sell the house, expensive, slow, and you have to live somewhere else. Take out a HELOC, which requires approval, charges interest, and historically gets pulled by banks during exactly the times you'd most need it, like a recession or a job market downturn. Or do a cash-out refinance, which means starting your mortgage all over again at whatever the current rate is. A paid-off house is not the same as cash. People treat it like it is. It isn't. Then there's inflation. A fixed-rate mortgage is one of the few assets in the entire financial system that becomes cheaper to service as inflation rises. Your $2,022 monthly payment in year one feels significant. By year 25, after 2.5 decades of inflation, that same $2,022 feels much smaller in real terms. The 30-year locks in 30 years of inflation hedge. The 15-year cuts that hedge in half. And finally, optionality. The 30-year holder can always choose to pay extra. They can refinance. They can pay it off early. They can do exactly what the 15-year holder is doing, voluntarily. The reverse isn't true. The 15-year holder cannot lower their required payment if life changes. Job loss, illness, divorce, a kid's medical emergency, the 15-year payment stays the same. It's a one-way commitment. The 30-year mortgage is not the lazy choice. It's the choice that preserves your options. The 15-year mortgage is the choice that takes them away in exchange for a feeling. Now let's be honest about something the math doesn't capture. The strategy only works if you actually invest the difference. And most people don't. This isn't a slight against anyone. It's just how human behavior works. When you have an extra $678 sitting in your checking account every month, it doesn't stay there. It gets absorbed. By the kids, by the car, by the trip you've been wanting to take, by the renovation that would only cost a little. None of it is reckless spending, it's just life. This is the strongest argument the 15-year crowd makes. They're not arguing that 6% beats 7%. They're arguing that forced 6% beats theoretical 7%, because theoretical 7% almost never happens. And they're right, for most people executing manually. The behavioral failure rate on the 30-year plus invest strategy is high. Probably 70 or 80% of people who say, I'll invest the difference become Marcus. But here's what the gurus miss. The failure isn't inherent to the strategy. The failure is inherent to manual execution. And manual execution is a problem with a known solution: automation. Here's exactly how to make this work, step by step. Step 1. Choose the 30-year mortgage if your interest rate is below long-run equity return expectations. For nearly every rate environment in U.S. history, including today, that's true. The exceptions are very narrow. Late 1970s and early 1980s, when mortgage rates briefly hit double digits, the math could flip. Outside of those windows, the 30-year is mathematically defensible. Step 2. Calculate the exact monthly difference between what your 30-year payment is and what your 15-year payment would have been. Use any mortgage calculator online. For the example we ran today, it was $678. For your loan, it'll be different. That number is your investment number. Write it down. Step 3. This is the most important step. Set up an automatic monthly transfer for that exact amount from your checking account into a brokerage account on the day after your mortgage payment clears. Not when I have extra. Not when I get my bonus. Automatic, same amount. Same day, every month. Every single month for 30 years. The transfer should be as non-negotiable in your mind as the mortgage payment itself, because functionally it is. Step 4. Invest the money in a broad market index fund. Not stock picks, not crypto, not your brother-in-law's startup, a low-cost total stock market fund, or S&P 500 index fund. The expense ratio should be under 0.1%. Every major brokerage offers one. Pick it once and don't touch it. Step 5. Don't touch it. The whole strategy depends on the compounding window staying intact for 30 years. Pulling money out at year 8 to remodel the kitchen breaks the math. If you're going to do this, commit to it. Step 6. Optional advanced move. As your income grows over the 30-year window, increase the auto transfer amount to match. The original $678 might become $800 in year 5, then $1,000 in year 10, then $1,500 in year 20. The strategy works at the original amount, but it works much better if you scale it up as you can. That's the whole playbook. 6 steps. The hardest one is step 3. And it's only hard once. Set it up, and the discipline takes care of itself. Before you write the comment, let's handle the objections. But what if the market crashes? Across every rolling 15-year period in U.S. stock market history, including the Great Depression, the dot-com bust, and the 2008 financial crisis, total returns have been positive. The 30-year window is even stronger. There has never been a 30-year period in U.S. equity history with negative real returns. Crashes happen. They get recovered from. The strategy is built around that assumption, not in spite of it. But what about peace of mind from a paid-off house? Peace of mind in finance comes from liquidity and optionality, not from a paid-off illiquid asset. A paid-off house with no investments is more fragile in a real emergency than a 30-year mortgage with $215,000 in a brokerage account. The brokerage account is what bails you out. The house is what you live in. Don't confuse the two. But Dave Ramsey says, Ramsey's advice is calibrated for people who can't or won't execute on a long-term plan. If that's you, follow his advice. It will work. But for people who can automate, the math is different, and the gap compounds into hundreds of thousands of dollars over a 30-year window. Pick the strategy that matches your actual behavior, not the strategy that sounds the most disciplined. Jake did everything he was told. He won the visible game and lost the invisible one. He paid off his house in 15 years and ended up several $100,000 behind a strategy almost nobody mentioned to him. Marcus had the right intuition and lost it to execution. He chose the 30-year for the right reasons. He just never automated the discipline he meant to have. Mia is what Marcus could have been if he'd automated. She didn't try to be more disciplined. She didn't trust herself to remember every month. She just set it up once and let the system carry her. The 15-year mortgage isn't the disciplined choice the gurus tell you it is. It's the choice you make when you don't trust yourself to be disciplined. The 30-year plus automated investing is the choice you make when you know how the math actually works. And you've removed the one thing that breaks it. If this video showed you something the rest of the internet didn't, subscribe to Wealth Logic and hit the notification bell. We break down the hidden math behind the financial decisions you face every day. And the next video? It's one you don't want to miss.